Those who didn't know your partner was rich, how did you find out? I thought my boyfriend Jake was just another broke college guy working construction to pay for school. We'd been dating for 8 months, and everything about him screamed regular blue-collar guy. His work boots were beat up, his jeans had paint stains, and he always showed up to dates in this rusty old Ford pickup that made weird noises when he turned corners. When we went out, we'd split everything 50-50. He'd suggest cheap places to eat and always seemed careful about money. I actually loved that about him because my last boyfriend was this spoiled rich kid who expected me to pay for everything. Jake worked these crazy long shifts, sometimes 12 hours a day, and he'd come home exhausted with dirt under his fingernails. He lived in this tiny studio apartment with a mattress on the floor and a mini fridge that barely worked. The guy ate ramen noodles for dinner more nights than I could count. Everything about his life felt real and honest, which is why I fell for him so hard. Then one Friday, Jake said he wanted to take me on a weekend trip to the mountains. I was excited because we'd never done anything like that before. He told me to pack nice clothes, which seemed weird since we were supposedly going camping. When Friday came, I was standing outside my dorm waiting for his beat-up truck to roll up. Instead, this sleek black Porsche 911 pulled up to the curb. The engine sounded like pure power, and the paint job was so perfect it looked like a mirror. I laughed and kept looking around for Jake's truck. The Porsche window rolled down, and there he was, wearing the same old construction clothes but sitting behind the wheel of what had to be a $100,000 car. My jaw dropped. I walked over and asked if he'd rented it for the weekend, expecting him to laugh and explain the joke. Instead, his face went red, and he looked down at the steering wheel. When I pressed him about it, he tried changing the subject, asking if I was ready to go, but that car sitting there was impossible to ignore. During the 2-hour drive, Jake kept fidgeting with the radio and avoiding eye contact. When we got to the resort, he handed his keys to the valet like it was totally normal. The place was fancy, like really fancy. Crystal chandeliers in the lobby, marble floors, and people dressed like they stepped out of magazines. Jake walked up to the front desk and upgraded our room to a suite without even asking about the price. The desk clerk was treating him like he was some kind of VIP, calling him Mr. Patterson and asking about his usual preferences. At dinner that night, Jake ordered the most expensive wine on the menu without looking at the prices. When I mentioned it seemed pricey, he just shrugged and said we were celebrating. The next day, he surprised me with a helicopter tour of the mountains. I kept asking how much everything cost, and he kept dodging the question. By Sunday, I was completely confused and suspicious. This guy who ate dollar store mac and cheese was dropping money like it meant nothing. When we got back to town, I finally confronted him in the parking lot of my dorm. I asked him straight up if he was in some kind of trouble or hiding something from me. That's when Jake's whole face changed. He looked terrified, like I'd caught him in some huge lie. He started stammering about how he could explain everything, but it wasn't what I thought. I told him I wasn't moving until he told me the truth. That's when Jake confessed everything. He wasn't just a construction worker. He owned the entire construction company. He'd started working construction when he was 16 to help his single mom pay bills. After high school, instead of college, he kept working and saved every penny. When the housing boom hit our area 3 years ago, he used his savings to buy equipment and started his own crew. Then last year, when his old boss wanted to retire, Jake bought out the whole company. He was now employing 30 guys and had contracts all over the state. I was stunned. This guy I thought was barely getting by was actually a millionaire who chose to live like he was broke. Jake explained that he kept wearing his old clothes and driving his beat-up truck because that's who he really was. The Porsche was something he'd bought himself after landing a huge commercial contract, but he was scared to drive it because he didn't want people treating him differently. He said he'd almost told me about the money dozens of times, but he wanted to make sure I liked him for who he was, not what he had.